The year is 790 AD. To the sophisticated empires of the south, the Carolingians in France, the Abbasids in Baghdad, and the Byzantines in Constantinople, the northern reaches of the world were a void, a place of mist, monsters, and shaggy barbarians. But the people we call Vikings didn't call themselves that. To go Viking was a verb, an activity. It meant to go on an expedition, to seek fortune where the rocky soil of Norway and the dense forests of Sweden could not. They didn't just wake up one day and choose violence. They were driven by a realization. Their future didn't lie in the frozen mountains behind them, but in the gray waves before them. The true protagonist of the Viking story is the boat. Unlike the heavy, deep-hulled ships of the Mediterranean, the Viking longship had shallow draft. It could cross the Atlantic, yet also sail up a river only 3 feet deep. This meant no city was safe, even those miles inland. The Viking world was split into 3 distinct geographic engines. 1. The Norwegians, the North Way. Facing the brutal Atlantic, they became the greatest navigators in human history, pushing relentlessly toward the setting sun. 2. The Danes, organized and numerous. They looked south toward the rich cathedrals of England and the fragmented empires of Europe. 3. The Swedes, known as the Rus. They looked east toward the vast river systems that bled into the heart of Asia. In 793, the raid on Lindisfarne sent a shockwave through Christendom. It wasn't just the violence, it was the fact that these pagans had no fear of God. But the raids were just the beginning. By 865, the Vikings stopped merely raiding and started colonizing. The great Heathen army, led by the sons of Ragnar Lodbrok, landed in East Anglia. In Northumbria, they captured Eoforwick, modern-day York, turning it into a thriving trade hub called Jorvik. Mercia and East Anglia fell in rapid succession. By the late 9th century, nearly half of England was under Viking law. You can still see this legacy today in town names ending in "by," like Derby or Whitby and Thorpe. In Ireland, the Vikings did what the local clans hadn't. They built coastal fortresses called long forts. Dublin, or Dyflin, was founded as a trade hub. Cork, Limerick, and Waterford all began as Viking settlements. They turned a rural island into a central node for international trade. In 845, a fleet of 120 ships sailed up the Seine and besieged Paris. The Frankish king, Charles the Bald, was forced to pay 7,000 pounds of silver just to make them leave. Eventually, the French grew tired of paying Danegeld, protection money. In 911, King Charles the Simple gave a Viking leader named Rollo a massive tract of land in the north. The condition? Protect Paris from other Vikings. This land became Normandy, the land of the Northmen. 150 years later, these Frenchified Vikings would return to England as William the Conqueror. While the Danes and Norwegians fought for the Atlantic, the Swedish Rus embarked on the most grueling journey of the Middle Ages. They hauled their boats out of the Baltic and dragged them overland between river systems. The Dnieper route led them to the Black Sea and the gates of Constantinople, which they called Miklagard, the Great City. The Volga route led to the Caspian Sea, where they traded with the Abbasid Caliphate in Baghdad. In the east, the Vikings didn't just trade, they ruled. They established strongholds in Novgorod and Kiev. This was the birth of the Kievan Rus, the cultural ancestor of modern Russia, Ukraine, and Belarus. The Byzantine emperors were so impressed by their ferocity that they hired them as personal bodyguards. For centuries, the Varangian Guard, armed with massive two-handed axes, stood behind the throne of the Roman Empire in the east. To the west, the story was one of survival. Many who settled the North Atlantic were fleeing the growing power of kings in Norway. Iceland, settled in the 870s, became a unique Viking republic. With no king, They established the Althing in 930 AD, the world's oldest surviving parliament. Then came Eric the Red. Exiled for murder, he sailed further west and found a massive, icy landmass. In a stroke of 10th century marketing, he named the frozen tundra Greenland to lure settlers. Around the year 1000, Eric's son, Leif Erikson, pushed even further. We know now they reached North America at a site called L'Anse aux Meadows. They encountered indigenous people, whom they called Skraelings, but being thousands of miles from reinforcements, the colony lasted only a few years. This global world was fueled by two things: silver and slaves. The Vikings were the middlemen of the Dark Ages. A merchant might sell English tin in Constantinople, buy Arabic silver in Baghdad, and trade that silver for fur in Russia, returning home a wealthy man. But the heart of this world wasn't the ship, it was the longhouse. This was the center of the Viking universe, a smoky communal space where the lady of the house held court. She carried the keys to the storage chests at her belt, a potent symbol of her absolute authority over the farm's resources. And while the role of the Shield-maiden is still debated, archaeological evidence, like the famous female warrior grave at Birka, suggests that some women did indeed take up arms. Yet for most, women were the logistical backbone that allowed the Viking expansion to exist at all. By the year 1100, the Viking was an endangered species. The wild, decentralized world of the fjords had been tamed. Norway, Sweden, and Denmark became unified Christian kingdoms. The Northmen didn't disappear. They simply became Europeans. The longships were replaced by heavy cogs, the runes by the Latin alphabet. But look at a map today. Look at the names of our days. Tuesday for Tyr, Wednesday for Odin, Thursday for Thor, and Friday for Frigg. Look at the city of Dublin, the province of Normandy, and the very DNA of people from Scotland to Sicily. The Vikings didn't just destroy the old world. They stitched it together. They were the bridge between the fractured tribes of the post-Roman era and the globalized world we live in today.